I always go into recording and I'm like, 11111, man, this might be the review that I do perfect and have no bloopers, and then top of the morning to you, Rangers. Well, not really. It's nighttime here, and you guys could be watching this at any time of the day. But anyway, welcome to another Power Rangers Dino Charge episode review. It's kind of a rocky time for Power Rangers right now. Last week we got a Halloween special that aired 2 weeks prematurely, and now we only get one new episode before Halloween airs again on Halloween when it was supposed to, and not some dumb It's time to see if the royal sacrifice we made of our 30 minutes this Saturday was worthwhile, as we take a look at the 15th episode of Dino Charge, Rise of a Ranger. This episode starts with a bang, literally as a company blows up part of a quarry. They're looking for something in the rocks, and when they find it, it's a fossil that contains a shiny. Meanwhile, welcome Prince Phillip back to the show. He's sparring with a robot when some of his attendants walk in and say that this may finally be the fossil he's been looking for. He sends them all out, including the robot, plays Dino Dentist for a minute, and finds the shiny. Ladies and gentlemen, the graphite Energem. He holds the Energem up high and says, "Energize!" And nothing happens. Unleash the power! Nope. The Energem is choosing not to bond with Prince Phillip. While we ponder that over, let's also welcome Fury back to the show. He's been reduced to an errand boy, feeding the prisoners, cleaning the ship, etc. Poisandra, delighting in this, tells him to mop the floors. But while she teases him about it, she takes a step too close to that solitary confinement cell, and whatever's in there grabs her. Fury takes a second to enjoy this, but then realizes that saving her could get him another shot at redemption. He saves her just as Sledge runs up, and sure enough, he gets a second chance. Meanwhile, at the museum, a group of children are throwing a temper tantrum on stage. I kid. The children are from New Zealand, and they're doing the kapa haka, a traditional Maori dance. You know, this museum has hosted European artifacts and now a New Zealand cultural exhibit. This is still a dinosaur museum, right? Anyway, one of the little dancers is Chloe, Chase's little sister. You know, their mother's probably named Christina, their father was probably Christian, and if she ever gets a little brother, his name will probably be Chandler. At the cafe, the kids are eating lunch when Chase meets up with Chloe. She wants to go skateboarding and he's ready to take her. Until the call comes in that Ivan is fighting Fury and the Rangers need to go help. He sadly tells her that it's going to have to be later, and pretty much all of the working employees at the cafe leave once again. Ivan morphs and he and Fury have a really good original footage fight. You can tell by the color of Ivan's pants, as weird as that sounds. The other Rangers show up to back him up and Fury calls the Vivics. But as the Rangers are fighting the Vivics, Phillip's robot shows up and starts fighting them as well. Although not doing nearly as good a job, more getting in the way than actually helping. Fury has to admit that he can't handle 6 Rangers at once and leaves to make a plan. But not before the Vivics take the robot while Phillip is explaining it. Wrench bypasses the controls and programs the robot to attack the Rangers. By the way, the robot's name is never mentioned on screen, but on its chest it says Jibo. Meanwhile, Phillip and Coda have their meeting, though momentarily interrupted by an admiring fan of the prince. Coda explains to Phillip that the Energems choose the Rangers for their good hearts, but he's not able to explain how exactly that happens. He does say that a Ranger must be worthy. So, Phillip sets out to become worthy. The only weapon Phillip really has at the moment is his wealth, so he becomes a mega philanthropist. He donates new fossils to the museum, donates a bunch of food to a shelter, donates wheelchairs to a hospital, opens a new playground in Amber Beach, and cuts a ton of checks, all while still training as a fighter. However, there's no reaction from the Energem. Chase and Chloe make it out to the skate park, but just as Chase starts teaching her how to skate, he gets called away again. Chloe is sad, but understands. However, she's got a present that she wants to make sure Chase gets, so she starts, chasing after him. Prince Phillip calls the Rangers to a meeting and reveals that he has the graphite Energem, which, by the way, Coda identifies by name, which I found a little weird because graphite is not normally a color that you just call something. He explains to the Rangers that he had hoped to bond with it first, but it hasn't worked. So he gives it to the Rangers in hopes that they can find a more worthy candidate. But just at that moment, Fury attacks with Jibo. The Energem falls into a fountain, and the Rangers have a very nice unmorphed fight, while Phillip's bodyguards hide him away. Chloe, of course, somehow wanders right into the middle of the battle, and Fury orders her gotten. I'm not entirely sure why, as he couldn't know who she is yet. Phillip realizes that she's in danger and selflessly rushes out to take her to safety. As Chase expresses his gratitude, something else comes rushing up to express its gratitude. Well, sort of. That's right, the graphite Energem comes flying out of the fountain straight to Phillip, bonding with him. He magically gets his fossil gun, and after asking, "Is it morphing time?" he morphs with the others, becoming the Graphite Ranger. The Graphite Ranger is the very first gray-colored Power Ranger. Flat gray as opposed to shiny silver. He immediately gets separated from the team to fight Jibo, and his sleeves are a weird shade of blue for some reason. The Rangers have a very samurai-esque banter-heavy fight with the Vivix and the Spike Balls. Fury then orders the Vivix to form 2 Vivizords, and Tyler gets kicked through several piles of cement, apparently injuring him. Kendall calls Phillip, who in a nice touch thinks that she's just the museum's director at first, telling him that Tyler is hurt and that he needs to summon his Zord. We get magically appearing Dino chargers again as he summons the Pachysword, and we get to see the full intro sequence for it, which would have been really nice to see before last week's episode. The Pachysword has a wrecking ball at the end of its tail, which it wears on top of its head, kind of like a hat. It has absolutely no problem with the 2 Vivizords, destroying both of them easily. Inspired by his Zord, Phillip destroys the robot with the Royal Dino Punch. I was a little surprised to see the robot destroyed, actually, because it had a giant red spike on its chest, which just screamed, "Remove," to return to the side of good. Sledge is mad but gives Fury another chance. Chase is finally getting that skating lesson in with Chloe, who declares herself the next champion, just like my big brother, interestingly, when her ride to the airport shows up. She finally gives Chase the present, which is an airplane ticket to visit her and their mother in New Zealand. He says that he certainly will, and I wonder if that's going to tie into a future episode. Phillip exposits about how money doesn't make you a hero, and Keeper pops up for one line explaining how his bravery and sacrificial nature led to the Energem choosing him. Unfortunately, he has to go because he has responsibilities in Xandar, but he has had his Energem charging some Dino Chargers, ensuring the Rangers can use them and the Pachysword when they need to. And if they ever need the Graphite Ranger, all they have to do is call. To the fossils! Episode 15, Rise of a Ranger. Pros: Phillip gets continued character growth, including his relationship with Coda. Episode really establishes what being a ranger means. Episode pulled off an interesting subplot. Fury gets a good bit of character recovery. Great actual intro fight for the Pachysword. Cons: Phillip's arc in this episode kind of downplays donating to charity. Phillip gets welcomed to the team in a royally good episode. Rise of a Ranger gets 4.5 fossils out of 5. Phillip was really great in his Ranger intro. His character continued to grow as he learned what it means to be a Power Ranger. And it was great that he went to Coda for information, furthering their friendship. He was noble even in failure, giving the Energem to the Rangers when he didn't know what else to do. And his Pachysword got a great intro fight, which should have been the first time we saw the freaking... And the subplot contributed to the plot of the episode, as we saw that being a Power Ranger can suck sometimes. Chase's frustration and Chloe's sadness showed us that being a Power Ranger isn't just about fun powers and awesome Zords. It can be kind of rough sometimes. And there's a hint to a future episode. Yay for the subplot! The only real downside to this episode is that in focusing on Phillip needing to become heroic and strong, they kind of downplayed his contributions to charity. The episode just made it seem like none of those things really mattered when they were all really amazing and important. I mean, sure, it showed that he got a bunch of thank you notes, but he really didn't seem to care. I deducted half a fossil for this for 2 reasons. One is just that I think charities are really important and that I worry about the message that kids got from this episode. And 2 is that it's easily fixed. Toss in one line for Keeper about your contributions to charity were valuable and important, and that fixes it. But otherwise, this was an absolutely excellent episode of Dino Charge from start to finish and is a great example of what Dino Charge is capable of. Now the plot takes a 1-week break so the Ghostess with the Mostest can air again so the Pachysord can make sense this time. But here in episode reviews we'll be haunting it up on a special Saturday Halloween edition ranking the top 10 Power Rangers Halloween specials. That's going to do it for another Power Rangers Dino Charge episode review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave some comments down below letting me know what you thought of this episode. Make sure to subscribe to see these reviews every Monday, although the next video is going to be on Saturday, like I mentioned. And like the video by clicking that like button right down below. I'm going to head on out of here, maybe start looking at some costumes, but until next time, may the power protect you. He's been reduced to an errand boy, feeding the prisoners, mopping the floors. I can't say mopping the floors because the only weapon Phillip really has at the moment is his, well... The only weapon Phillip really has at the moment is his... Here's the good take. He explains that he had hoped to bond with it, but that I had forgotten the rest of the paragraph, so that's obviously not going to work. The Energem falls into a fountain, and the Rangers have a very nice unmorphed fight. The Energem falls into a fountain, and the... Now good quality on my head. That's right, the graphite Energem flies over to Phillip and bonds with him. Inspired by his Zord, Phillip destroys the robot with the Royal Dino Punch. It has absolutely no issue with the 2 Vivazords, destroying them easily. Easily. It was so easy. It was easier than remembering this paragraph, apparently. Chase is finally getting that skating lesson in with Chloe, who declares herself the next champion, just like my big brother. It really kind of seemed like none of those other things he did mattered when they were all amazing and important. The only real downside to this episode is that in focusing on Phillip becoming heroic and brave, they kind of downplayed his contributions to charity. Oh Lord, here we go. The only real downside to this episode is that in focusing on Phillip needing to be heroic and brave, they kind of downplayed all of his contributions to charity. The episode just made it seem like none of those things he did really mattered when they were all really amazing and important. Why is this tape not memorizing? I mean, sure, it showed that he got a bunch of thank you notes, but he really didn't seem to care.
Versus.